why they were doing a training mission in weather that bad.
Mm-hmm.
Now, did the crew come up with the scenario, or because they wanted to be the number one in the nation because they can take the most abuse from weather,
Mm-hmm.
or was it an order from their commander? And if it was from their commander, did he get accurate information from? Trying to think of the name of the officers. Uh, anyway, the person who looks at the weather person in their organization has to share what the weather conditions are to the pilots and to the commander before
Mm-hmm.
they depart. So it'll be interesting to see if they were ordered into that area flying low with the constant threat of downdrafts. They're actually called microbursts,
Mm-hmm.
where you can't fly up as fast as it's pushing you down. So if you can climb 1,000 feet per minute and it's pushing you down 2,000 feet per minute,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to lose that race eventually
Mm-hmm.
until you get outside of that microburst. But when you got these huge winds like coming across, is that San Gabriel's? Is that what the mountain range is?
Um,
Anyway,
yeah, I'm gonna replay it because yeah, I'm gonna have to replay some stuff. So we
but
were late.
the leeward part of that mountain will seem to be calm air, except for this jet of air being pushed high up into the atmosphere, right? As it comes along the ground and boom, it's shoved high into the atmosphere. And then every once in a while it
Mm-hmm.
collapses
Yeah.
and you get a microburst. And if they were at just the right place, the right time with the inclement weather, it's, lights out. It's a terrible situation.
Yeah.
I feel for the family, especially the families.
Yeah. Um. Um. And I do gotta say, and I know you'd probably agree with me. As a Department of Defense continues to assess what occurred, we extend our deepest condolences to their family, their squadron, and the U.S. Marine Corps as we grieve the loss of 5 of our nation's finest warriors. Um, we will forever be grateful for their call of duty and selfless service. And to the family of our fallen Marines, we send our deepest condolences and commit to ensuring your support and care during this incredible, difficult time. Do you agree with that, William? I tried to throw
Yep.
something together. I have a niece that's Marines, and you say it's kind of dear to your heart too. So, um,
Yeah, the Corps has always been a positive influence in my life. My father was a Marine. Um, my mentor was a Marine. So, and then I went in the Air Force when the time came. But I have a real soft spot for Marines. They, of all the services that can expect to go into harm's way, it's the Marines. The Marines know they're going to go first,
yeah,
right? Because they're absolutely expeditionary, and there's no restrictions for them for crossing waterways or getting in the air and close air support and all that stuff. They got it. They figured it out. They know how to prosecute war. But yeah, they write a blank check when they go into the Marines, and if the president says go in, they could potentially be ordered to their deaths and comply.
yeah.
That takes somebody special.
Um,
Um, people sleep. People sleep in the free world peacefully at night because folks like this are willing to train,
mm-hmm.
and if necessary, the president sends them in to rein back an adversary at their own peril.
So this is a recording, and William, it's delayed. So I'm going to redo our opening, and then we'll get on with what you guys missed, and I'll re-show that video. So it picked us up about 2 minutes in, William. So all right. So yeah, it was delayed. I don't think we said anything. Um, no, I don't think we've really said anything besides the migrant that beat up the NYPD is indicted, and they're going to deport him. Um, and then I want to show that video, so we'll go back to that real quick. Um,
Yeah, I have something to say on that when we get to there.
okay, where'd it go? Let's see. I'll reload the page.
Intensifying into the Marines' helicopter crash in the mountains.
I'll get used to this recording thing.
Sure we will.
I just need quicker fingers is all.
We can get used to pretty much anything over time.
Yeah. All right, so here we go.
Overnight, the investigation intensifying into the Marines' helicopter crash in the mountains outside San Diego. 5 crew members on board and no indication of survivors. First responders returning from the debris field late Wednesday in those mud-spattered vehicles.
This muddy track is the only way to get to the crash site. You can see that the weather is still bad. We're told that the rescuers had to actually get out of their cars and walk miles just to get to the crash site.
The CH-53 Super Stallion helicopter, known as the Marines' workhorse, departed Creech Air Base outside Las Vegas late Tuesday and was described as a routine nighttime training mission, stopping in Imperial County to refuel, and then headed to Air Station Miramar in San Diego. When it didn't arrive, it was reported overdue, which triggered a huge search.
We got a call from the Marine Corps captain and aviation safety officer saying that they lost signal for one of their aircraft in the Pine Valley area.
The crew had been flying at the tail end of a deadly 3-day storm that pummeled California with rain, heavy snow, low visibility, and gusty winds.
This is a rugged area of the county. The axis is up truck trail, dirt road, and we had a lot of snow in that area.
That debris field discovered 7 hours after the Marines were reported missing.
Last year alone, 19 service members were killed in 5 separate military air crashes. And it's been nearly 24 hours since we've heard from the U.S. Marines about what might have caused this crash, possibly this inclement weather, or about recovery efforts.
So, all right, William, what do you want to say on this?
He just learned that an overnight fire in Sunset Park, Brooklyn was...
Okay, I'm interested as to who ordered that flight, that training flight. Was it a volunteer training flight by the air crew and, agreed to by the group in the aircraft, or was it they were given a direct order by a commanding officer, and did that, whoever the responsibility lays with, that flight went out, did they get the proper weather information from the weather officer? So in the military, we have to have a debriefing after every training session or every flight. They debrief so that if somebody made a mistake and had a close call, or God forbid, in this case, we have, a big quotes, an incident that our flyers don't, and anybody in the military, in fact, we don't make the same mistake twice. Rules in the military, in what they call TCTOs, time compliance technical orders. So these will be orders that will be standard, right, to every airman, every officer, what not to do in a situation like that this crew came in. These books, these rules, right, these orders are written in blood.
Mm-hmm.
And so you don't want your military people to extinguish themselves before they can get in the fight. But these Marines are heroic in the fact that, they've written a blank check to the United States government up to and including death. They are, in fact, our heroes. They're the reason we sleep well at night is because there are Marines like this all over the world. And, they're fearless.
Yeah. Well, so moving on. And the next one is it's almost you. I don't know if you should laugh or get mad because PETA. Now you would think PETA would go help the wild horses and the wild burros in Nevada. No. They're going to target a Kansas-based largest amusement ride manufacturer in Kansas for the sale of animal-themed carousels. Children learn through play and teaching them to have respect and compassion for all living, feeling beings can help create more of a merciful world. The organization argued to chances at Rides, Kansas-based amusement company, that animal-themed merry-go-rounds celebrate exploitation. And what they need is more like cars and airplanes and spaceships, bulldozers, other vehicles, etc., motorcycles. William, I've seen this and I grabbed it up just because PETA, they do good in a lot of ways, and then they jump in and do something like this.
So
it's a fake horse.
They're transhumanists, so they're into things like, petri dish meat, things that have been raised in the lab rather than animals. They think that riding horses is a sin. I don't take much credence from, they originally came into being here in the Northwest, in the Seattle area, and then they branched off down the coast, and they used to go out and protect whales, right? But now they've got into the spiking, trees, so that when guys are cutting through the trees with chainsaws, they hit those spikes, the chains suddenly snap and blow back oftentimes at the chainsaw operator.
Yeah.
They've done some protests where they've shut down streets, access ways in Seattle. And, Seattle is a hub of a whole lot of major trauma for hospitals. And now suddenly ambulance can't go that direction. They don't really consider the human toll. It's good that children learn to fantasize about how animals behave and how they act. It's better that they act it out initially on an inanimate object like a carousel ride horse or a chicken or whatever going around the carousel. Or,
I mean, there are
That's where-
seats behind the horses. I don't know if they didn't see those or what. I mean, because people don't have to really ride the horses; they could sit in those chairs. You know.
Right, because they have buggies. They have everything in those carousels. You don't have to be on an animal.
Yeah, that's it. That's right. I don't know. I kind of liked riding the horses. So, but like you said, they don't even want people riding horses. So, all right, we're gonna get away from PETA. Suspected drones used by Yemen's Houthi rebels attacked 2 more ships in the Middle East waters. Now, this came from Tel Aviv, Israel, Associated Press. Now, 2 ships traveling in the Middle East waters were attacked, and suspected Houthi rebels, I believe, is what they said. And this was yesterday. And this is the latest assaults by Iran-backed fighters. The first attack happened in the southern part of the Red Sea of Yemeni port of Hodeidah, with the projectile causing slight damage to the. What it did is it caused the windows on the bridge, which is nothing, you know. The British military, United Kingdom Maritime Trade Operations, said a small vessel had been nearby the ship before the attack. So, you know, they're still doing it. They're still attacking ships. And they've even diverted the cruise ships now away from there.
So it's hard to get insurance right now to transit the Suez Canal through the Red Sea, because you have to go through what is it called? Something Mandab Strait there. You know, the Houthis are all in. A lot of people in the world are thinking that, well, if we fire a few shots at them, they'll stop. No, they're all in. They're all in, just like Hamas. They're all in, just like Israel. All right? There's only one way to stop them from firing missiles into that strait.
Yeah.
They have to have people actively hunting for those launchers, so they stay down and keep them moving and keep them hit. Mm-hmm. You can't, if you go, it's like doing crowd control. You can't arrest everybody at a protest. There's not enough room at the jail, right? And so what you do is you get them turned around, get them moving, get them a little afraid so that they fall away into the alleys as they go down the street, until finally there's just a few of them left. You arrest them so that they'll have something on the news, right, saying don't do this, or you'll be like these guys at the protest.
And we had the Somali pirates. Remember, they were attacking the same ships. They were trying to grab the cargo and the pirates. Because I watched a lot of stuff on that. I was like, they're really going after a ship that big, you know, but they did, you know. So this is ongoing there in the Red Sea and the Hormuz Straits, even up to Panama. They were getting hit with pirates, modern day pirates of all things.
So a lot of these ships, you know, by law, they can't have arms on their ships, and so they've been hiring these mercenaries to protect their ships on the high seas, especially, you know, with the ones from Sudan that you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, it's real close. Because I used to.
So they come out of port and they get to international waters. And as soon as they get to international waters, these guys meet the ships on another boat, board that ship, and then that ship goes all the way to wherever it's going. And just before they get to wherever they're going, another boat comes and picks them up. So they're never in national waters with weapons. Mm-hmm. You know, even commercial trucks here in the United States crossing state lines can't carry weapons in their vehicles, and they're subject to search every time they cross, a state line.
Now, moving on, we got the climate czar, John Kerry. Now, Comer has been investigating him, and this doesn't get in the news very often. And that now he has now put it to the House Oversight Committee, and they've launched an investigation to John Kerry for frequently meeting with climate, environmental activists, not from our country, to solve the United States problems, but other countries. And he demanded documents, communications that related to Kerry's collusion with leftist environmental groups as well. He's looking at everything since Kerry came in 3 years ago, demanding that they turn it over by February 21st. He said this leftist meetings, Comer did, went far beyond normal briefings. It raised questions regarding possible conflicts with SPEC staff ties to these groups regarding climate finance investments. William, what'd you tell me earlier that he was kind of put in place? Something about
so
that?
He's not part of a department head. He was just anointed by Biden as the climate czar, and he never went before Congress to be voted into that office, right?
Yeah.
Then he goes out and he's doing things over the name of climate, right? The climate czar, that affect the United States foreign policy in contravention to possibly our own State Department, right?
Yeah.
So he's effectively freelancing for the president, because the president doesn't feel the State Department wields the power that he would prefer.
Yeah, and the thing, William, is the information they're looking at is it was like climate finance stuff that was influencing U.S. foreign policy positions. So there's a lot of bribery. There's a lot of stuff that he's doing, and see, we're reaping the effect of it. So he's been being I don't want to say he was being dirty, but he wasn't being
he wasn't being open. He wasn't being transparent, and once you don't have transparency, a lot of times that can lead to graft and corruption, and that's what Comer's concerned about.
Now wasn't John Kerry, wasn't he the one that got in trouble during Vietnam, or was that someone else?
So he was on a swift boat. I think he was captain on a swift boat.
Maybe that
was
it
Vietnam.
him, or was it Oliver North?
He got cut on a mission, right? Grazed by a bullet, whatever, and got the Purple Heart. But when he got back home, he understood the protests more deeply, I guess, than the rest of us. And he tossed his Purple Heart back at the government. So he's gone from a completely protesting.
Because I think I got him kind of mixed up with Oliver North, because Oliver North did some stuff too. Because I found out that when the Clintons were here. So, but we're not going to go into Oliver North.
The difference is Kerry was just Navy. He wasn't working for the CIA.
And he's the one that Kerry. He has been almost a deciding factor on the State Department how the taxpayer dollars fund the projects that he wants. And see, he, like you said, he's not even really a part of the administration, but he's making even going over the State Department, which he shouldn't be.
So out on Long Island, when you get towards Connecticut, there's a community there, and at the end, nearly at the end of a runway, so you land on this grass runway, and then you turn around, park your plane, get in your car, drive just to the fence. This is like a couple football fields, right? It's enclosed. And then he goes along the fence and goes home because he's on just beyond Overrun at that little airport. That's why he doesn't like to have to drive places. He doesn't want to have to take public transportation because he lives next to an airport. In fact, he may own the airport.
Yeah. More likely. And you know, the next
he's
one.
He's an heir to the Heinz fortune, so he's got money that we can never even consider.
And he shouldn't. He made that all off of politics, and that's the problem with because you know the problem with politics is when they start becoming lobbyists, because then they go out of office and they could be a lobbyist, and then they get back in office and get part of the administration, and that's when the money starts coming in.
Well, he was Secretary of State for a while before Hillary Clinton under Obama, right? So, or Bush, I guess. And you know, once you've had power, once you've wielded power, it's seductive. You know, in the military, we train to go to war, and so when a war pops up, it's like it's most seductive thing in the world to us, right? It's more seductive than church. Becomes more seductive than even our wives or husbands, because that's what we are. That's what we do. We want to be in the place of history. But the same thing happens to office holders in the U.S. government because they wield the power of all the people of the United States, all 360 million of us. That's a heady combination, right? And they don't want to give up what they were doing just because they're no longer in office. They want to find another way to project that same power with or without the consent of the government. And that brings you to, are you engaging in foreign diplomacy without being directed by the president and therefore in violation of the Logan Act? Well, yeah, that's a question. And I think that's part of where Comer's headed.
Yeah.
Gonna say you can't engage in statecraft without consent of Congress and being called to the position by the President of the United States. And then after that consent is given, you're subject directly to the President as one of his department heads. Yeah. So it's going to be interesting what he finds, because he may get in those groups and they might be talking about things way beyond climate change. They may be getting into the whole technocracy religion.
It's the Green New Deal thing.
Yeah, and you have to remember these people are brainwashed. All right, so they act like a cult. It is because they're a cult. They're a special new religion that's burgeoning, based on science.
Yeah.
The science we have at the universities, particularly, and at the medical centers, and they want to have this technocracy. That's where AI is coming from. Electronic implants in human bodies, right now they're helping people out that are handicapped, but down the road they're going to use it for control.
Yeah. Now, we got the election coming up, and there is a guy, he's a historian who accurately predicts almost every election. Uh, I like it. He's a historian, but he's only been doing it since 1984, William. And so I read through it, and he says more than likely Trump will win, even if Michelle Obama jumps in. Now, here's my thought: are they going to let Trump win by a landslide? Because Biden, Pelosi, Schumer, now Hunter Biden, and a few other politicians got together with Zelensky, one of the first meetings they had, and he changed Ukraine to asylum for politicians. New Zealand's the same way. And then they started putting in the labs, William, and then they started all buying into the resources. I believe, is it uranium that they got over there? So that's what I'm thinking. If they let them win by a landslide and they know there's been corruption and they could be charged, let Trump win and they could flee. My thought.
So what they're likely to do, because is allow him to become president, because they can't possibly beat him, right? And they don't want an instant civil war after the fact, because they won't be able to keep the power anyway. Right?
Yeah.
Civil wars end up, and nobody knows. Nobody saw Ulysses S. Grant, a drunkard that had been either expelled or left the military early to work for his father-in-law, and then came back drunk in the Civil War, but was effective, and so he was promoted. He ended up being the President of the United States. When you enter conflict, you don't know how it's going to turn out. You know, President Lincoln went into the war to win the war. They won the war, and he was assassinated.
Yeah.
And then Ulysses S. Grant stood up for the nation. And after the war, because Lincoln had signed the Emancipation Proclamation, and the country was expanding, everybody got 40 acres and a mule, right? And that included black folks.
Yeah.
And the South wasn't angry; they were wroth over it, because they were the great agricultural sector, not the industrial sector of the North. Wow.
So yeah, I just thought I'd throw that in there. But you know what's really this goes to Kerry and the Bidens and all their Green New Deal is Ford announces billions of dollars in losses. They said billions and billions on electric vehicles. It's worse than expected. After declaring an annual success because of Biden administration, Ford is now revealing that it occurred a loss of $4.7 billion on its electric vehicles, and more than $4.5 billion the company is predicted just in the middle of last year. So they say as of this year, they're already going into the billions already. It's like I've always been saying, William, they should have just waited. They should have waited. We all want the flying cars.
They all want the technology.
They should have set it up with all the little stations and made sure it worked. They should have came up something better with the batteries.
They don't want something that works, actually. Here's why. Because then they can't just make work continually until they're out of office. All right? They use this as workfare for the Democratic Party that's coming up. This is how they fund people to live until they can get them into office or into an administration. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This isn't about climate. This is just about a work fair so that the Democrats will have more money to run for office because they haven't wasted money on all these people that they want to bring into the administration to create this deep state, right?
Yeah.
So we should know going in that this whole thing about roofing houses, putting windows in them, adding solar cells, on and on and on, isn't a situation that can work.
You know, something that surprised me because, hold on a sec, because you'd probably want to even add this to what you're saying, is Buttigieg, he's the guy with the transportation. He is now saying that it might not be worth it, and it could be a hazard to other drivers, these electric cars. And so he's claiming that now he's seeking Congress to write in a bill to make a highway safer and start fixing the highways up so that less chance of people getting hurt with these cars. So that surprised me that he's.
They know their
I don't think it was about. I really don't think it was about fixing the roads as much as saying these electric cars aren't good, and they can't just keep blaming Tesla. They just can't keep blaming Tesla for these things.
Well, they're not going to take responsibility for anything. They take no responsibility for anything negative. Anything positive happens, they take responsibility for that, even though they don't create that situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're always on the premium goods side.
Yeah.
And they don't want these things to keep going. They don't want it going during a Republican administration because they want to take it up again when they get to another Democratic administration. They don't like being creative. They want to do the same thing over and over and over. Democrats are not very good at being progressive, even though they are progressive.
I think it has. I think it's kind of a different meaning though. They're progressive. Well, you know, they call us deplorable monsters. I guess they're progressive idiots.
Well, they're grifting off the American public. Let's just call it what it is.
Yeah.
They're grifting on the taxpayers.
Because I'm not gonna say Democrats voters are idiots because they're going through the same thing we are, and I really think there's a wake up of them saying, wait a minute now, we don't like what we're seeing in our country, and that's besides the border, the economic status of the United States with food, wages, everything, rent, mortgages, everything, gas, cost of electricity, basics to be able to make it by.
Well, the department heads are wielding the power of the United States in their given zone, right? So you got different departments for different functions. And these people don't just wield the power here in the United States. By extension, they wield that power over all the planet.
Yeah.
So when they do these shenanigans just so they can get things paid here locally, they cause all kinds of consternation out in the world. And, you know, they don't look out and understand what's happening with global dynamics anyway. So what if 2 or 3 African countries go into famine?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a sickness.
Okay, let's and you know we have well, there's quite a few things with the drones over there with Iran. Now, one involved an attack that killed 3 U.S. troops, but what it was is this commander that they had been seeking, and they finally got him in Iraq, I believe. It was Baghdad's Marsh Tall neighborhood. High valued individual target is what they said. And he's believed to be Wissam Mohammed Abu Bakr al Sadi. Boy, I hope I said that right. Um, so he
So he's from the bar in Saudi Arabia. They
he's
take the
he's in
base
charge of
places and
Hezbollah operations in Syria, according to Reuters. Um, But at the same time, we're looking at these drones, and we just found me and you were talking about it on the article that they have got kamikaze drones.
they're just small missiles that find their target.
Mm-hmm.
And, it only takes a cell phone as a guidance system. The cell phone has everything that a aircraft needs to function.
Mm-hmm.
So you take what's in a cell phone, you hook it to one of those little miniature computers I showed you that are about the size of a credit card.
Mm-hmm.
Man, now you got a complete flight control system,
Yeah.
and you have access to data coming from that telephone can now act on winglets and rudders and flaps and all the things that these slow-moving drones operate on. Even optics like cameras, right? And they can figure out what is and isn't a human and which part of the neighborhood they are in because of mapping that have been put on them previously. And now they're exporting them everywhere because why? Because this war in Ukraine, where the Ukrainians are such underdogs that they have to become absolutely creative, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everybody else is looking at this and saying, wow, these guys are slaughtering tank after tank after tank with these sometimes $100 weapons.
Yeah.
And
William, I'm surprised they didn't do this earlier, because how many movies have you watched where it's they have like a remote control car and they drive it under another car close to something and it blows up? And I was like, oh, that's cool. I want one of those. I always want a bigger gun too, but
the CIA's out there in the world, and they're the ones
they've had this. I think they've had this. They just never said anything.
Oh yeah, they've had the information for a while.
I think,
and this guy didn't flee. This guy didn't happen to flee back to Iran because he didn't think the United States would be able to target him. So now exactly what's happened is, as far as the military is concerned, they've ensured he met his appointment with God.
Well, is he going to get the virgins?
Depends on what God wants to do with him. He might be so disruptive that he's tossed into
they always claim their God is not our God. So I'm thinking, I'm just, I kind of wonder if that's the way it is.
Going to decide what happens to him.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, the Almighty. But I don't think he's going to have virgins in his future.
I don't think so either. He's way too disruptive.
Yeah. William, we're sitting at 43 minutes. I'm going to say let's take a break and come back in a couple hours and finish up and do another one.
Sounds good.
So
thanks, Elly, for the opportunity.
Yeah, I think this might work out for us. And see, I could post this anytime this evening, and we could record another one, and finish up what we were doing, because there's still your stuff and more my stuff. So, and I think if we stick it around, 45 minutes to an hour, I can do this. So I say, let's see, you're 2 hours behind me. So I'm thinking, what about 9 o'clock? And that's like 7 o'clock your time. And we'll do another one.
Okay.
And then we'll try to figure out something for tomorrow to totally tie it up and finish up. So then that way we have 3 shows and it's no strain on me, For I could show one, and then I could show two tomorrow, and then I could do trivia on my own. Because all I got to do is just throw it out there, and then
if you got an extra, you can just dump it out on the weekend too.
Yes, that's what I'm thinking. Is we'll just kind of we got this one, we'll do another one, and then tomorrow, sometime during the day or even tomorrow night. We could do one and we could throw that one on the weekend. So, because there's still.
I think you may get more viewers because you're suddenly popping up in people's domains that typically, as far as time constraints, they wouldn't be aware of what's going on at the time.
Yeah.
So,
because
it might be a good.
Let's see. We are. I still have. Let's see. I still got about the same amount, about 5, 6 of them. And you said you got a couple pages. So, and I think it would get us through the weekend. All of this will.
Yeah, and news is just popping up right now that we're going to have to cover.
Yeah. Well, you go ahead and check that out between now and, like I said, 7 o'clock. It would be a couple hours. And that way I could rest up again and get me something to eat and put my feet up. And then we could go again. I like this, William. I really do. So, all right.
Well,
and I haven't stopped the recording. It's still going. So it just lets our viewers know, this is kind of a kickback, unusual of me and William just chatting. And so with that, everyone, we'll say sayonara. This is something we're going to try, and I hope everyone really enjoys what me and William are doing. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and end this. And so thank you, William.
You're welcome.